Hi, welcome to Reddit Audio Stories official channel. We hope you will have fun with us. I appreciate your visit to my channel dedicated to love stories. I encourage you to subscribe and give it a thumbs up as it serves as great motivation for me to create new content. Enjoy watching. It was a very sad day. A very sad Friday for me. In a few minutes I would see my life turned into a disaster that I would not be able to control. The only thing I could do at that moment was to wait and see if the expected ship would really happen. However, I would not become a weak slug who would wail and feel sorry for myself. No. I never forgot what my old surgeon taught me long ago. Offense is the best offense. My only option is to fight to save at least my honor, even if a lot of other things go to hell. Yesterday, I received a briefing that gave me enough time to prepare well for the events ahead. That's why I was sitting in my friend's black Peugeot 330 and 7 parked in a secluded corner of the motel parking lot. I had been told that my wife would be arriving this afternoon, and now I was nervous to see if her red Toyota Yerkes would arrive. She did, and within seconds her real man pulled up behind her in his BMW Ray, which she parked next to my wife's car. He said a few words to her and headed for the front desk. I got out of the car, walked over to my wife's Toyota, opened the passenger side door which was unlocked, and sat down in the seat. My wife, totally surprised, shouted, "Ethan, what the hell are you doing here?" I held out a brown envelope and said, "No big deal. Just divorce papers from my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife. Have a good time fucking your honorable real man and feel free to stay here forever." She started screaming. No. You are completely wrong. It's not what you think. Let me explain why I'm here. I assure you it is not because of any deception. I demanded a divorce and I don't care if you're sleeping with that maggot who just ran out to get the room key to your little love nest, feel free to be his who, and like I said, I don't give a shit. It was obvious that my months-loving wife was expecting this day to be a much more romantic event with her obviously horny noble lover because she started crying her eyes out. Just then her supposed real man was coming back waiting his room key, and when he saw Iva crying and still sitting in her car he opened the door on her side and asked her who the hell is he? And what did he do to you? As he said this, I out of the car pulled a little plastic bottle out of my pocket, and as I ran to him I heard her sobbing. He's my husband and he's going to divorce me because of both of us. I'm going to beat that stupid idea out of that Dan bastard. When her lover returned to me, I pointed at his face, squeezed a bottle with a mixture of water and shampoo, and the resulting stream of water hit him in the face. His eyes went blind and it made him scream and rage while he was temporarily incapacitated. It was time for my second weapon, a dart with 3 barbs welded to the tip. I quickly positioned myself behind his back, swung my right arm sharply, and plunged the dart into his left buttock through his pants and underpants. Thanks to the barb tip, it stayed in and could not be removed without surgery. Overall, my actions were a success, so I left the lover obviously unsuccessful. He had shampoo in his eyes, a dart in his ass, and was cursing like an old dock worker. My unfaithful wife was still sitting, crying loudly in her chair. I headed for my car and pulled out of the motel parking lot without any more trouble. No matter what happened later that Friday, one thing was for sure. These lovers would not be in the mood for romantic sex. The principal. I'm Ethan Smith, a 37-year-old Scandinavian guy currently married to Iva 36. Our 2 kids. David 9 and Jessica 7. Alva and I have been together for 11 years and married for 10 of them. We have just about everything couples in our position dream of. So we should be very happy. But I'm sorry to say we are not. In my humble opinion, the main reason for our unhappiness is Iva's mother. Although she is not green, has no tail and does not spit fire, she should be considered a real hostile dragon who has not missed any opportunity to be a pain. And the ass to me, it started with our first meeting. I was invited to dinner at IA's house. It was more of an interrogation than a pleasant dinner. After a bunch of questions, the dragon said she didn't like my name because Ethan is its name and she doesn't like people with names. Upper-class families never gave their children names like that. She went on to say that Smith was a typical farmer's surname from the days when a son received his father's name along with son at the end of the stern. She went on to say that she hoped for something better for Iva as her second daughter, Eleanor, was going to marry a good man from a noble family. I had heard enough. I stood up and said, wasn't the mother a bastard and the fact that she is an unemployed parasite on welfare? Before anyone could answer, I continued, will you come with me over? To my great surprise, Alva came with me and we walked out of what looked to me like a dragon's nest. I had known Tracy's boyfriend Daniel since my high school days and all sent surprise that he, with his skills at deception, had let I have a strange mother to consider him God's gift to Eleanor. It was none of my business and what did I care? Of course. I hadn't been invited to Eleanor and Daniel's wedding and I didn't give a shit about that either. What I did care about was my relationship with Iva, and it got better and better until it got so good that it caused her accidental pregnancy. It made the dragon almost spit fire when she called me and blurted out her opinion of what a jerk I really was in her eyes and in the eyes of other decent people, and then a wedding ting at her expense was out of the question. The Scandinavian church in Los Christian on the Spanish Canary island of Tenerife is a popular place for small weddings. So Hazel and I went there with our best friend and got married. Both Hazel and I found a great job in a town 110 kilometers from our hometown, so I had minimal contact with her mother, who devoted all her efforts and a lot of money to Eleanor and Daniel. The next few years were good for Iva, me and our 2 children. We made a lot of money, bought a nice house and made many friends in our new town. Our sex life was still good because of the distance. I had minimal interaction with Iba's family because her parents never visited us, and when we went back to our hometown to see my family, Hazel would visit hers. Eventually, even Daniel got fed up with the dragon we shared as a mother-in-law. Everyone's surprised he had succeeded in his business and gladly accepted the promotion, which involved moving to a new location 170 kilometers away. After some discussion with Eleanor, he gave her a simple choice: accept the move or get a divorce. She followed him to his new job now. The dragon remembered that he had a daughter named Iva and began calling her daily. After a while, without realizing it, Hazel began to feel colder towards me. She took to complaining more about what I didn't do, or should have done, and talking more nonsense about how well things were going with Eleanor and Daniel. Our relationship did not improve when I told Hazel that the main reason Daimel had left was to get away from the hostile dragon. That was her mother-in-law. Trouble never comes alone, and Iva's feelings for me cooled further when a new boy, also from some secondary branch of a noble family, began working with her. Soon enough, Hazel began to describe him as something of a superman, or at least a real man. He was married to a nurse, but his wife was in Tanzania, Africa, volunteering as a nurse at some medical center, and he had about 3 months left before his trip was over. A real man, and his wife intended to buy a house when she got back, but for the time being she was living in our city, renting a room in his wife's married sister's house. Ova really annoyed me when she compared my business, my vocabulary and even my clothes to that real man at work, needless to say, who ended up being the winner in those comparisons. Although Iva and I continued to have sex, my attempts were often met with comments like, "Oh, again, and can't you ever get enough?" If it weren't for our children. I have as many positive aspects. I would have left her long ago, but it was clear that she was faithful, a good mother, loved to cook, kept herself in good shape, and we worked well together, keeping the house and beautiful garden clean. If she hadn't started with her nagging and other sour comments about me, she would still be a dream wife for me. Of course, I was not a coward who accepted all her nonsense without telling her my opinion as well. That compounded our problems, like one night when our kids were sleeping. "I really wish you were more like my coworker," Hazel said. "If you're in love with this cheater, why don't you fiddle for divorce and become his who? But as long as we're married, I'll never accept cheating. Fuck that as hole behind my back, and make sure I teach him that even if you act like a cheat, poor, your services will come at a high price." All of us started screaming hysterically. "You were such a bastard. What the hell did you just say about me? How dare you call me a whore? Make sure you pay for it? Wouldn't it be better if your clients paid?" I screamed at her before I could answer anything, unpleasant to frightened and crying. Children approached us and I started doing my best to calm them down. 2 very cold weeks passed after her outburst. The first weekend, she and our children went to visit her parents, and then the next when Eleanor and Daniel came to visit. Alva played the good wife and was nice to me until our guests left on Sunday morning. When we said goodbye to them, she told me, "Don't be naive and expect favors from me." The following Thursday at all in downhill, when one of Iva's coworkers called me at work and after a brief introduction got right to the point. "We have a very charming new guy at work and 3 of his female coworkers are competing to seduce him, your wife, me and another single girl. Although we begged your wife to leave him be since she is already married to a good man, she refused to listen to us. Now she is very proud and bragging about winning our contest and going with him to the motel tomorrow." After lunch I thanked her and convinced her to keep that call a secret so we could do something about our problem. On the way home from work I watched Iva and she seemed a little more cheerful than usual. After the call I started thinking about what the old surgeon had told me during my military service. He was a great admirer of the Apache warriors of the old Arizona Territory and their tactics of surprise attack and then disappear. I had no experience in street fighting, so my only chance of winning was to do what those old warriors did. O bragged to me that she was a black belt in some Japanese martial sport, so the surprise factor was very important. Pepper spray would have been great, but it is banned and not hazellable in this country. So I had to find a simple alternative. A small plastic bottle with hair, shampoo and water would have been my weapon of choice, and it worked well after the painful tests before my very eyes. The surgeon told us many things about the amazing effectiveness of silent arrows with serrated tips from a well-disguised ambush which created fear among the soldiers during the Arizona frontier wars. Of course I couldn't use a bow and arrow against IA's lover, but the idea took me to my little workshop in the basement. I had grabbed the closest thing I could find, a bullseye soldering 3 cm long pieces of sewing needles at a slight angle around the tip of the dart. I made a jagged point. Hopefully it would be difficult to remove it from some soft part of the body. Without surgery in a hospital. I had no desire to try this weapon on myself. After some thought, I had a simple plan without having to buy sophisticated equipment for my actions. The divorce papers issued to Iva and her blinded lover for a few seconds would give me time to state a barbed dart in his ass. I doubted he would still be interested in sleeping with my wife at least as long as he had that dart in his ass. The next morning, Hazel was wearing a rather sexy dress, but I pretended I didn't see anything strange about it and avoided commenting on it in every way possible. We both behaved as usual on Friday morning. At my job I swapped cars for the day with my partner and good friend Thomas. We did this often when he needed my Volvo 70 instead of his own smaller Ruju 330, and 7 in the morning went to the courthouse to get the divorce forms and fill one out in my office. After a brief search I managed to get in touch with the charity's headquarters in Tanzania, and there I got the email address of my lover's wife Ida. I drove to Iva's workplace on my lunch break and found her car and the lover's car still in the parking lot. Apparently they had eaten lunch at a nearby restaurant before heading to the motel. Flew out a couple of hot dogs and headed to the motel to wait for them. As you know, the lovers arrived at the motel and my actions went exactly according to plan. Thus my islander, the army was not completely wasted, and I was grateful to the old surgeon. At 4:30, my home phone rang and the same female voice that had informed me yesterday about his trip to the motel asked me, "Did you go to the motel today and see what you expected to see? Thank you for calling?" Yes. I was there, but our coworker was not happy to see me. I tried to cheer my wife up with the divorce papers, but that gift somehow didn't make her any happier. This man threatened to hit me, so I had to defend myself and he hurt his butt. I guess my wife took him to the hospital. It wasn't a very romantic date, at least in my opinion. Is that true? Yes, it was. I have no reason to lie to you. My wife isn't home yet, but feel free to call her cell phone and ask her. Of course. I can't guarantee she'll tell you the whole truth. Then whoever she was thanked me and asked for Iva's cell phone number, which I gave her. I hope they had a nice chat. I then emailed the wife of a real man in Africa and explained the whole situation, that came home at 5 o'clock and was clearly not happy at all. She stared at me and said, "We need to talk and we need to do it now immediately." That's fine with me. You and your lover got what you wanted, and you must have been completely insane if you expected me to remain a slug, and during the humiliation, you and your so-called real man intended to give me no way. Hazel. I would never put up with such filth without fighting for my pride. I retorted, even though he didn't do you any harm. You did him so much harm that I had to take him to the hospital emergency room. Rest assured you will have to pay for it. In fact, there are 4 of us adults and 2 children. I said, splitting the bill for what you and that creep did. You cannot be serious if you think some poor nurse in Africa is happy after receiving my email with information about you and her husband. Now she knows what kind of sound rule she married and who she trusted? Did you really do something so nasty to his innocent wife? Even threatening me with divorce was really disgusting, said his wife. I didn't threaten you with anything, just sign the divorce papers and you will have fair terms to be a free woman in 7 months. Refusing to sign and going to a lawyer will cost you a lot, and you'll still end up with the same terms. Now she realized he was serious and began to sob. My God, are you serious? Please listen to me for God's sake. I haven't done anything wrong. Yes, you have. But joining your weak mother's vendetta against me for no real reason, just because I don't have a high-class name, you let me talk you into being an annoying bitch to me. You were in love with a coworker who you consider your superior in all matters based on what she has always told me. And then I found out that you competed with 2 single female coworkers to get a date with this supposed real man. When you won that stupid game, you left work early today and went to a motel to pick up your prize, which means you cheated on me by banging a married man. You know my opinion on cheating, so there can be no doubt about those consequences. I haven't cheated on you today or ever. That's for sure. And you're the only man I love. Have you forgotten that we have 2 children? What about them? Our kids are the only reason your grumpy ass wasn't kicked out a long time ago. I hear day in and day out about all my faults according to your mother, and your own opinion about how fucking worthless I am compared to that creepy crawler. The real and you won, the one you went out with at the motel and apparently loved. I'm humiliated by your attempted deception and sick of all the other shit you're always throwing at me. After a while, she realized the games were over and we started negotiating the divorce. I assigned the papers after I agreed that we would both continue to live in our house and not date anyone else for those 7 months until the divorce was final. Blog. This epilogue is written 7 weeks after my actions to thwart Hazel's attempted cheating. Strange things have happened in the remainder of my marriage. I had discovered a good wife, a very good wife indeed. Ova has become a completely different woman who has obviously forgotten how useless I was just a few weeks ago. Oa and I are civilized and do a lot more things together now than we did a few months before our problems came to light. Of course, we no longer share a bedroom. Honestly, I don't miss the quick favor she did for me during the months before her attempt at cheating at Sounds facility. But I believe her when she says she never slept with her real man. The motel date was supposed to be the beginning of their love story with a little sex now and then. The real man's wife demanded that she go to Tanzania to work for free in an aid camp until her own contract expired. He went there to save his marriage and his wife emailed me that he was doing well and that she had forgiven him. He begged me to forgive Iva, but I don't know what to do because we still had at least 19 weeks to think about it before our divorce is finalized. However, it will be interesting to see if Iva is serious about her mission as a good wife and how long she can continue it. This could be helpful if a famous dragon remains submerged in the depths of Loch Ness Loch Champlain or just stays in its nest. Dear friends, thank you very much for watching. Leave comments. Put likes, share with friends and subscribe to the channel.